chairman of ICPR, and also all the very respected delegates from our country and Iran, and who have assembled to discuss a very important questions which has great significance. So I personally come from the tradition called the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So actually it is nothing like Hinduism. Hinduism is a conglomerate word which has been applied by the foreigners about the religion of India. But religion of India is actually known by various other names like Sanatan Dharma, Jaiva Dharma, Prema Dharma. This type of terminologies are native to our religion. So next slide. Okay, the central point is that the absolute is sentient, absolute is conscious, he is not insentient. So therefore love or bhakti becomes fundamental. So in modern understanding of scientific materialistic ideas, the concept, idea and form are ignored. So this creates a dualism which is defective, incomplete and impersonal. So in our tradition we are the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has given the great harmonizing principle. So we follow and we teach that. Next. So we can have a comparative approach. There are a lot of points. I just listed a few. So we have two forms of religions in the world. The religion is preached in two forms. Indic religions means religions which has been preached in India from time immemorial, and the religions which have been preached outside India. So you call them Semitic religions, but we can say non-Indic religions. Islam is one of those religions. Come back. So the most important idea of Islam is Tawheed, which is monotheism, and that has been expressed in Vedantic religions as Advaya Jnana Tattva, the non-dual truth. So that is one similarity. Then we have Acharya Parampara, which is the unbroken chain of disciplic succession from the teacher to disciple. And in your tradition you have the line of prophets. Then there is Sambandha Gyan. What is the relationship between God and us? So this is the important question. Then the process of worship and Prayojana. What is our real necessity? Why do we come to God? These three questions. So Islam also has taught servitude to God, which is the relationship aspect. Then obviously how to worship Him, that has been also detailed in the Quran and also by Prophet in his sayings. And also Prayojana, necessity of that is love of God in Islam is also there. For example, one of the very well-known titles of Prophet Muhammad is Habibullah, which means the beloved of God. And then finally we have Sadachar, or good behavior, how to behave in society and with each other. So that is also has its fundamental importance in Islam. Next slide. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he mentioned a saint in 19th century, gradually when the offensive portions of the established religions are destroyed, there will be no more differences in the bhajana performed by the various sampradayas, nor any quarrel between them. Then as brothers, the people of all varnas, castes and countries will spontaneously chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord together. At that time, no one will hate anyone or consider others dog-eaters, nor will anyone be overwhelmed by the pride of high birth. The living entities will not forget the principle of natural brotherhood. Next slide. So there are some important sayings of Muhammad also, and I have just quoted few. So we make no distinction between any of his messengers. They say, that means the messengers are saying this to the Almighty: we hear and obey. Grant us your forgiveness, our Lord. To you we all return. Then this is about Christians, but it can be extended to everyone. You are sure to find that the closest in affection towards the believers are those who say we are Christians, for there are among them people devoted to learning and ascetics. These people are not given to arrogance. And finally, another quote: say, people of the book, let us arrive at a statement that is common to us all. We worship God alone, we ascribe no partner to Him, and none of us takes others besides God as Lord. That means there is no two gods, there is one God, which is a statement of monotheism. So in our Bengal, there was this Chaitanya movement, and it influenced everyone, including the Muslims, and not only in Bengal, but also in South India, and today its effect is felt all over the world. So some of the important highlights are this. There are several dialogues between Mahaprabhu and Muslim scholars about the concept of God and love of God. Many Muslims became the recipients of love of Godhead, or Krishna Prem. And then there was a fatwa given by Chandkaji of Navadvip that no one should henceforth oppose the Sankirtan movement. So some important points are there. And then concept of God. Absolute is sentient, and there are three main elements to be traced within divinity. Sandhini, Samvid, Haladini means the main thinking, the main willing, and main feeling or satisfaction. So these are three aspects, or three, what to say, one absolute truth in three phases. So these are the three phases of the Advaya Gyan Tattva, or the non-dual absolute truth. So Mahaprabhu harmonized all the different concepts in Vedanta by his contribution called Achinta Bheda Abheda Vad Tattva, or inconceivable and simultaneous identity in identity and distinction. This is the idea of monotheism. Next slide. So now, what is the meaning of absolute truth or Bhagavan? Absolute truth realized exclusively through the process of bhakti, service in love of God, is called Bhagavan. In Bhakti Sandarbha, the characteristics of Bhagavad Tattva are described as Paripurna Sarva Shakti Vishishta Bhagavan Iti. The complete absolute truth endowed with all transcendental potencies is called Bhagavan. Next slide. So this is one quote. I don't want to, because it's in Bengali. In Vedic literatures, Krishna is a central point of attraction, and his service is our activity. To attain the platform of love of Krishna is life's ultimate goal. Therefore, Krishna's service and love of Krishna are the three great riches of life. When one accepts Vedic literature by interpretation or even by dictionary meaning, directly or indirectly, the ultimate declaration of Vedic knowledge points to Lord Krishna. Next slide. So these are the 9 main points that has been given in our system. The Vedas teach us, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 9 principles. The first, the statements of Amnaya are the chief proof. Amnaya means disciplic succession, which is coming down from the line of Acharyas. That is the chief proof. And they give 9 topics which are being taught. First, Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. 2, Krishna is endowed with all energies. 3, Krishna is the ocean of rasa. So first we say Brahma, this is Brahma Jigyasa. What is the ultimate substance? But later on that becomes Raso Vaisaha. That absolute substance, Brahma, is not only a substance, but it is the abode of all transcendental mellows and exchanges. Then the Jivas, the living entities, they are just separated part and parcels of the Lord. They are Vivinnangsha. That means it's an organic truth, organic whole. And found, 5, in the bound state, the Jivas are under the influence of matter due to their tathastha nature. Means Jivas have 2 tendencies. They can become independent or they can serve, and they become dependent. So between this vacillating tendency, that means they have originated from the that marginal potency of the Lord, and that is why they have this nature. In the liberated state, the Jivas are free from the influence of matter due to their Jivas are free from matter. Okay, the Jivas and the material world are both different and identical. Bheda Bheda Prakash of the Lord. So that means this world, what that we see, as well as all the living beings, they are all manifestations of the different energies of the Lord. So this is the concept of the organic whole. And then what is the activity of the living entities? It is devotional service. And what is the ultimate goal? Is love of Krishna is the Mool Prayojan. Everybody must get the love of God. So we should know what is Atma, because this is central concept of our teachings, or with the concept of soul. So the symptom of the Atma is that every living being is conscious. Now the Prakriti or material nature does not evolve consciousness like fossilism. This is the material idea, or the Darwinism. That is not found, does not found an accord in our scriptures. Rather, there is no necessity for the soul to move in this plane. The soul is inactive, indifferent, passive in this material enjoying plane. That is another original conception. The soul does not take its place in the negative side, that means this material plane. It is meant for the positive side, but accepting that the soul is in the background, the material energy, the body works on its behalf. The relationship between body and soul is like that relation between a minor and his false guardians. The soul cannot control these revolting managers, the 5 senses. He need only have the contact of a major soul. With the help and guidance of the major soul, he can subdue his managers and gain mastery over his own property. Next. So now we must have some idea of creation. actually maybe manifestation is a better word, still. So the material existence was in the beginning as if in a sound sleep. Science has no capacity for investigating the nature of that stage of existence. भैया थोड़ा slide side में होगी ना. At that time, the movement began from within the spiritual plane and light came. This light was seen by the seers. The light was pre-existent, but at that time the seers received the vision to see light. That means the original sages or seers, they got the power from the Lord to see how the material manifestation is unfolding. So they began to see. So this primal light is compared with personality. Light means consciousness, and consciousness means personality. That light or personality first gave birth to the onlookers, to the feelers of material existence, and then to an objective substance like water. That water is known as viraja or causal substance. Then seeds of consciousness are sown in the causal water, which is a shadow of that original light. Next. So when the mass of matter is infused with the energy of light consciousness, that is known as Mahat Tattva, which is basically the mass ego or the ego as a whole. The element of conglomerate ego is called Mahat Tattva, and after further development, that entity was divided into many units of Ahankar, the element of ego. As objective substance evolves by influence of consciousness, it expresses itself in 5 main ingredients, which can be seen, smelled, heard, tasted, and touched. These 5 elements are the primitive principles of material existence. The development of material world has been described to have come down through a process of subtle to gross, from consciousness to matter. Again, when the material existence is withdrawn by superior will, the gross dissolves into the subtle. Beginning with the most gross, gradually the whole material existence becomes more and more subtle until finally it enters into the subtlest expression of material existence, known as Prakriti, the subtle causal of material substance. Okay, next slide. So this is John Milton. He wrote a book called Paradise Lost. So the Satan, the devil, is saying it is better to reign in the hell than serve in the heavens. Why should I become servant? Because if I become servant, I have to become dependent, subservient to another person's will. But the Vedas, they are saying exactly the opposite. It is better to serve in heaven than to reign in hell. We are not the masters, we are not independent beings, but we are dependent, and it is better to act as in our real ontological position as servants. So with the dissolution of material energy, the Atma or the individual soul is absorbed in Brahma. So this is about those who have not yet got love of Godhead. So therefore there are 2 kinds of beings, the perfect and unchanging or infallible, and the fallible souls. The fallible souls reside in the material world, and the infallible souls reside in spiritual world. So Krishna says, I exist, transcending both fallible and infallible aspect of spiritual substance, Shara and Akshara. So I am Purushottama, Vasudeva, Parabrahma, the supreme absolute truth, and within me the whole of my jurisdiction is also to be considered. Next slide. So something about the soul we should continue here. In the introduction, Bhagavatam gives this warning and caution to the scholars. You will be dumbfounded when you attempt to come to this plane. Scholarship will not allow you to flourish here. The nature of that plane is so mysterious that even great scholars won't be considered fit to enter there. Only the surrendered souls can understand and feel these subtle points of devotion. Others who remain objective inquirers and researchers can't have any entrance there. It is a superior subjective realm, the super subjective realm, and that plane is above even the plane of the soul. Next. So this is what of Rupa Goswami. And he says, what is Nishtha? Nishtha means firm faith. Or so he explains that Nishtha means continuous connection. He says, no, life comes from life. 2. The universe in the beginning came from merely insentient force. However, according to Vedas, the universe doesn't come from material force, it comes from the original life. Next. So therefore, different peoples are experiencing something in this world. It is only a floating world of experience. So there are many atheistic philosophers like Charvaka, and who are comparable to the extreme atheists of the West. And then there is Buddhism, who admit that there is transmigration, but they cannot believe in soul, in general at least. But Shankaracharya says there is soul, but he denies individual soul. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in him, he said, we have to accept the Vedic truth in its entirety without any modification. So therefore, in modern science, some kind of dualism has been created by Descartes because he began his philosophy with doubt.